We will take your phone calls with Alex Jones, the Patriot, next hour. More to talk with him about when we come back in just a moment. And welcome back. We've got Alex Jones. And Alex, you have this tendency to see the big picture. You see the puzzle while the pieces are still scattered all over the table. What do you see?
Well, George, looking at history, we know that societies and cultures go through cycles, and that nations that have had incredible freedom produce amazing levels of prosperity. But then nations tend to become decadent. They've forgotten where they came from. And here in the United States, we're seeing a repeat of history. This nation is still the greatest country on earth. We are filled with wonderful, hardworking people of every race, color, creed, religion. But underlying it all, there is a sickness, a decadence, and the tyrants that wish to seize the United States and use it as an engine of global domination, as the workhorse of private corporate world government, are doing everything they can to condition us and train us to accept the opposite of a free republic. And you said something before the break that is central to all of this. Why is the power structure doing this? Why are they announcing total spying, everything you do being recorded by the government? Unbelievably unconstitutional, unbelievably illegal, a felony every act. Why are they on the news admitting they're doing it? Because they're scared of justice. They're scared of the people waking up, so they're attempting to acclimatize and condition everybody to accept what they're doing. But the larger question is, why are they accelerating this takeover? It's not just because they're scared and have to take over because the best way to consolidate their crimes is to set up an authoritarian system. It's more than that. They have created conservatively, even the Washington Post admits this, over $1,000 trillion worldwide in U.S. dollars, over 1 quadrillion in fake fraudulent paper derivatives. And who did it? A handful, less than 10 big banks, the 6 mega banks, over 90% of that.
And that hasn't all collapsed yet. That still could come, Alex.
Exactly. So that's what too big to fail is. These big mega banks, if you go back to the end of Glass-Steagall 12, 13 years ago when Congress ignored all the warnings of economists and others and said, look, investment banks can get into the brokerage business, they can create financial instruments, they can create basically all the counterfeit financial instruments they want. Everyone said this is going to end up creating the mother of all bubbles, and when it collapses, it's going to destroy our society. And we've got to triage this debt because every economist that I've heard on your show and everywhere else goes over the numbers. It's impossible to pay back. When you've got over $1,000 trillion that they're trying to get the United States and a handful of other countries to, quote, pay back, well, the entire economy of the world is only a fraction of 1,000 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
We can't pay it back.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. But B, and even more importantly, this isn't our debt. When you look at Greece or Ireland or Spain or Italy, where the globalists are installing their own people, the governments have signed on to the bankers' derivatives. So they create the derivatives, hold us hostage, and say there'll be a worldwide collapse and depression if you don't back this up with tax money. Then they bring in austerity, jack up the taxes, cut the benefits. The economy's going to cardiac arrest, and the bankers aren't even so much looking for that bailout money because they can just print more themselves.
They just print more, yeah.
They want the depressed economy because then they can buy everything up for pennies on the dollar or pennies on the euro. So that's, to answer your question, which I know that you knew, but for some of your new listeners, that's why they're doing this. Every generation expects the last tyrant to come after them, like my grandfather fought Hitler as a B-17 bomber pilot. Well, we're not fighting Hitler today. Every generation looks back and thinks they're fighting the last threat. The threat we're facing are con artists in suits and ties who have taken over our society and who have created a fraud so big they can hold our society hostage in the threat of, if we don't give them whatever they want, they'll implode our economy. They're already imploding our economy. The only way out of this is what Ron Paul has talked about, to triage this debt, to write it off, to let the billionaires and the people that leverage trillions of dollars of control, to let them go under. It's either us or them. It's that simple. They're trying to fully convert our economy, and I've got a list of these topics and points, but they're trying to convert our economy over to a tyranny. They're trying to hide it in plain view and normalize it. All we've got to do is call them on it.
But, Alex, do you think if people are given their breadcrumbs and, given their car and their little house or apartment and, they think they've been left alone, do you think they'll be content?
Yes, many people, for the breadcrumbs, for the stuff that falls off the edge of the table, will feel thankful and defend the system.
Yes.
But there were a lot of people in 1775, 1776 who were content. It was 3% that spoke out. It was 5% that won that war. And we're fighting an information war today. And I want people to understand something. We're not facing just some financial tyranny like our forebears were. We're facing a total takeover. I mean, our president openly takes orders from the UN to launch wars now and tells Congress to go fly a kite. Our federal government and our president and our Congress have passed laws saying that citizens can disappear into the night and never be seen again, directly out of the pages of the most hardcore tyrannies that history has ever seen. Our so-called government is openly announcing that they're building giant NSA bases in Utah and San Antonio, Texas, to spy on everything we do. Every act they carry out, a serious felony.
Cities will have drones flying all over the place.
That's right. In the last FAA 5-year spending bill that was $63 billion, half of it was for 30,000 drones. The TSA is not just groping and abusing people in airports now. They're at highway checkpoints and federalizing our police in violation of the 10th Amendment and the 4th Amendment.
Patted down a little kid in a wheelchair.
That's right, little children in wheelchairs now. Eminent domain under Agenda 21 all over the country. People's property is being taken, and they're being paid nothing. The UN, as everybody knows, in Connecticut a few years ago, through their different treaties and agendas, have the state government and the federal government come to people and say, you take 10 cents on the dollar, and if you resist us, we're going to take it and charge you for the court cost. That's what's happening. People are having their land taken and not even being paid. Hey, talk about martial law, George. We're already under a soft martial law. When you've got a president saying he'll secretly arrest citizens, when you've got the TSA doing this, when you've got the federal government launching wars without congressional approval, when you've got the president 2 weeks ago on another Friday evening signing a bill that they can announce any area they want as a federal security zone and charge you with felonies for protesting in any way. What's so sad here is...
And would they all be signing this, every president that gets elected? I think they would.
Absolutely.
Except maybe Ron Paul.
I don't know if Ron Paul would go along with this.
I don't think he would.
Yeah, his voting record shows that he wouldn't. But regardless, it's that we've been acclimated. We've been prepared. I mean, I am so sad to have to talk about this on air. I wish this wasn't true. I wish I was wrong a decade ago about what I saw coming. I wish that it wasn't true, but that doesn't change it. It is, and everybody needs to understand. So many people say to me, Alex, what do I have to hide? So what if they're setting up a tyranny? I go work my job. I'm happy with the breadcrumbs you were just mentioning, George. What they don't understand is serial killers grab women out of parking lots who just went to their job and were nice people. Folks think that just because they're nice and keep their head down, that tyrants are going to leave them alone. But we know from the communist Chinese and the Soviet Russians and the Nazis and all of it,